what's up? Today's question is a very interesting one, and I think a very important one for most guys when it comes to dating, and it's this. On a first date, when should you kiss her for the first time? This is a great question because the kiss is such an absolutely critical point in the date, especially if you're new to dating. I know when I first started out going on dates, I went on probably 9 months of dates before I had my first kiss. The first girl I kissed was actually the first girl I ever slept with. So the kiss obviously has some bearing on the success of the date. That said, the answer to this question, like the answer to almost every question in game, is it depends. But what it depends on will tell you a lot about dating. If there has not been enough man-to-woman communication, if there's not been enough sexual tension in the date already, the kiss is a tremendous way to make that be the case. The kiss says sexual tension, it says man-to-woman, and therefore it sets a platform for everything else on the date. And so when I was learning dating personally, I made it a rule for myself early on. I have to kiss on the first date every single time. I have to go for it every single time. And I try to make it a point to not just wait till the very end and do a good night kiss, but to try and do it early if at all possible. And I even went so far as to make sure that I always sat with the girl in a way that kissing was possible. Then, as I actually got more experienced at dating, and I got to the point where a first kiss was gonna happen on the date almost always, because the date itself was just, there was gonna be more flirting, there was gonna be more man-to-woman, the vibe was such that a kiss was almost a foregone conclusion. I actually found at that point, I started to slightly better by not kissing the girl as fast and not pushing for the kiss. It got to a point where I started occasionally making out too much on the date, and when I had made out too much on the date, if I wanted to take the girl home at the end of the date, it was actually problematic because we'd made out so much, she knew absolutely that going home with me would be for sex, all right? And so whereas if I'd kissed only a little bit on the date, or as I got to more advanced, even sometimes taking the girl home without kissing her before taking her home, there's a lot more ambiguity, there's a lot more tension created there because she doesn't know 100% that it is for sex. Now, there is an alternate way to create that tension even after you go for the kiss early on, and this is what I'd recommend you do as a beginner or intermediate, is this. Still try for that first kiss as soon as possible. However, once you've had that first kiss, consider very strongly not just making out the whole rest of the date. Have that first kiss and pull away first. Have that first kiss and back off and have more conversation. So once you have that symbolic gesture that you like each other, don't kiss to the point that you've killed the tension and made it completely obvious and boring. You don't want to do that. There is such a thing as kissing too much to the point that kissing loses its appeal. If I had to give a general rule for when to kiss and whether or not to kiss before taking the girl home, here is the rule. The kiss should be building sexual tension rather than taking away from sexual tension. And also, the kiss should not make it 100% obvious. All right? Those are the two criteria you're looking at. So let's look at the first one. If it has not been very man-to-woman, kissing will make it man-to-woman and therefore increase the sexual tension. On the other hand, if it's been extremely man-to-woman, extremely flirty, and there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of sexual tension, a lot of intensity, oftentimes the kiss will actually release that tension. The girl's wondering whether you like her or not, you kiss her and now she knows you like her and now she's no longer sort of seeking your validation or chasing you to the same degree that she was before you kissed her. So at a certain point, kissing is increasing the sexual tension. At another point, it's decreasing the sexual tension. Also, oftentimes the first kiss or the first few kisses will maybe increase the sexual tension, but if you keep making out and making out and making out all night long, those later kisses are actually decreasing the sexual tension. You're sort of cheapening the kiss because you've been doing it all night long and that's all you're doing, to the point that you're sort of like, we're just kissing, is this going anywhere at this point? The other problem with kissing a lot in a public place or during a date or whatever is that typically if you really are making out with a girl, the next logical step, the next emotional step, the next step that's right for you and the girl would be to escalate further than a kiss. But if you're in a public place with a lot of people around, you can't do that. You'd much rather that moment in the date occurs when you're in private, back at your place, back at her place, so that if you guys are in a sexual mood, you can actually act on that sexual mood. So maybe you make out heavily in the bar where you meet the girl, and then you have the cab ride home and some walking and some other stuff, and the mood calms down. And then when you get back home, it's kind of staled out. You kind of missed the window a little bit. So you want to avoid that as well. Next, let's talk about obviousness. Okay, number one, we mentioned if you're making out and making out and making out, it's pretty obvious that your intention is to escalate as much as possible. That means your escalation may be sexual. At the same time, if the very first opportunity you even have a glimpse of a chance to kiss the girl, you take it, it may make you seem a bit eager, and so that can lead to you seeming a little bit obvious and a little bit like there's a foregone conclusion that you're gonna try for sex. Now, again, there are ways to help out with this, and as a beginner or intermediate, this is what I'd recommend you do, right? So if you do start kissing early on, number one, don't just make out, keep talking, keep interacting, that kind of stuff, but keep also occasionally pushing away. Still have some disqualification. Let's say, for example, you've kissed the girl, you're talking a little bit, she says something you don't necessarily like, don't just be like, oh, I like that, and be obvious. Occasionally be like, really, did you say that? That's surprising. I guess we'll deal with it, but it's okay, whatever, right? So you act a little bit like you're a little taken aback by something like that. Or maybe you, a good beginner kind of thing is maybe you say like, oh, I'm totally breaking up with you now, right? Or wow, I'm gonna have to file for divorce if you keep talking to me like that. You can joke around, tease around, but having a little bit of push away, having a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of negative polarity, along with all this, we like each other, we're escalating, it's getting physical, it's getting sexual, can again make it much less obvious that you're going to sex. And by the way, the reason you want it to be less obvious, number one, so when the girl comes home with you, she doesn't feel slutty about it. Number two, it actually makes the experience for the girl better, right? When there is that tension, she feels more emotions. All the positives you give her mean more if they're mixed in with some negatives. So it's actually a favor to the girl in terms of the experience she'll have with you on the date as well. So all of that so far is about the timing of when the kiss occurs on a timeline of the date. However, there's another type of timing, which is when is the right moment for a kiss, right? Because just because you'd like to kiss early on, if the moment's not there, you don't want to force it, right? Or just because you're waiting longer to kiss, if the moment's really staring you in the face, you might actually take it because it's just a perfect moment. So when is the right moment for a kiss? So generally the moment I'm looking for a kiss is a moment when the girl clearly likes me, has indicated she likes me. Oftentimes we've had a little bit of light physical touch before the kiss at least, so I know that there's some permission, and I know that the girl's kind of on for that. And typically I'm looking for a moment when the girl is a little bit sort of like flustered and reactive, right? So maybe I tease the girl and she's like blushing and kind of like, like touching me and very much in that moment. That can be a really good moment for the kiss because it's a moment when I'm saying like, oh, I teased you, I gave you a hard time, but listen, I still like you. And the kiss has a message there. The kiss has a meaning or a communication of it's okay, I like you, it's positive, we're together, etc. So that's a good moment. In the sense that the girl's very primed for the kiss, she's very eager for the kiss, but also the kiss has a very good meaning and it seems very romantic, it seems very storybook, and creates this great vibe. And even if you were to tell like the story of your first kiss, it just feels right. It feels good the way that it happened. So sitting next to a girl is a great logistical situation for kissing a girl. Another great logistical situation for kissing a girl is actually if you're ever standing and facing her. There's a lot of tension created and a lot of like intrigue created by eye contact and proximity. So another way that I'll go for a kiss, let's say, for example, I had a date where I'm across the table from a girl and I can't kiss her during that period. Let's say then we go to the next venue, we go to the next bar. On the walk to that next bar, I may take her by the hand, pull her over to me and be like, hang on for a second, or come here for a second. And then we get close, we're kind of eye to eye. We have that kind of like little bit of tense eye contact, that little like flirty smile between each other, and then I might go for the kiss there, right? And so it's a moment where there is eye contact, proximity, and it's a moment when you actually created a mood right before the kiss, right? There's something I call a phase shift. And a phase shift is when you change the energy of the situation to an energy conducive to a kiss. So if you're having a good conversation with a girl, but it's very all over the place, it's very animated, and there's a lot of back and forth, and the girl's moving around and you're moving around, it's hard to kiss in that situation. If you settle things down, calm them down, make some nice eye contact, that kind of vibe is much more conducive to kissing, right? And maybe even one thing I like to do, I haven't done this so much recently, but I used to do this all the time for a kiss, is I would actually, if the girl's talking a little bit flustered, I'd actually go, and then I'd kiss her. And that sort of like silencing and bringing it to a nonverbal level and creating a pause and creating tension and creating that little what's he gonna do next actually would set the tone for the kiss very, very well. Point being, setting the right mood for the kiss is important, and the right mood for the kiss is not a hyper high energy mood. It's a calm, relaxed, intimate mood where you and the girl are close, where hopefully there's been some eye contact, and ideally it's on an emotional high point. Maybe you just teased her and she responded particularly well. You know those teases where you tease the girl and she responds so well that she actually like, sort of in order to like revalidate herself or just make sure it's okay or whatever, she actually like starts touching you. Those are good moments right after you tease her, she's touching you, you make eye contact, hold it for just a little bit too long, and then go for the kiss, as an example. Another great way to go for the kiss is to lead in, like I said, with physicality, but especially physicality leading directly up to the kiss. So one move I like to do, for example, is I'll get a little intimate, I'll look at the girl in the face, and then I'll brush her hair kind of out of her face and just see how she responds to that. If when you reach over to brush her hair, she like, pulls away, she's almost certainly not ready for a kiss yet. Doesn't mean she never will be, doesn't mean it won't happen later, but right now she's probably not ready yet. But if she's okay with that, and then, you push the hair back behind her ear and she's okay with that, she's probably ready for a kiss. If you want to go one step further, you can like run your hand up through her hair, and if she's good with that, probably ready for a kiss. If you can kind of pull the hair just slightly, then she's almost certainly ready for a kiss. Another move I like to do as a lead-in for a kiss, I've been doing a lot more lately, is I kind of just get close to the girl and I actually just lean in my forehead, because the forehead's you can't kiss with the forehead, right? So I lean in my forehead, I forehead to forehead with her, and then I just kind of hold it there, or sometimes I'll lean forward so there's a little more of our face touching. And you could actually go for the kiss right then and there, but what I usually do is I just do that and I hold it for a second, hold the tension, and I pull away, kind of looking her in the eye and smirking. And then I know that the next time I go in, I might likely go in for the kiss because she's okay with my face being next to her. She's okay with that kind of physical contact, okay with that kind of intimacy. And so I can be pretty confident the vibe is on for the kiss. Finally, let's talk about when you might not want to go for the kiss on the date, or when you might not want to go for the kiss just yet on the date. Number one is if you and the girl are kind of back and forth with tension, you haven't really decided you liked each other, and you've been fairly dismissive, fairly pushing away. She sees you as a very high value guy, but you haven't really made it man to woman yet. In this case, you may want to take your time and make it man to woman before you actually go for the kiss. Also, if the girl is particularly conservative, sexually inexperienced, or giving a lot of indicators that she doesn't typically have sex on the first date, it may be a reasonable idea to not kiss her until you take her home. And in some cases, if you determine that it's just not going to go all the way to sex tonight, there may be situations where you don't want to kiss on the first date. If you are a beginner, please disregard what I just said. If you're a beginner, please just go for it anyway. But if you are an advanced guy, you're used to getting great results with girls, you kiss girls almost always on the first date, and you, in your experience, are saying this girl's shy and this is absolutely not going to be a sex date, then trust yourself, trust that vibe, and maybe just keep the high value frame without going for it, without taking a risk. Along a similar line, and this is probably the most common situation where I will not kiss on a first date, is if I know that the date is time constrained, right? Again, the criteria is that I know the date's not going to sex. But let's say, for example, either I take the date, which I usually don't, knowing that there's only 1 or 2 hours available, or more commonly what happens is the girl shows up on the date and I find out at that point that there's some, strong deadline that she only really has 1 or 2 hours to hang out with me. In that case, I kind of often decide based on logistics and things like that, it's probably not a situation where I'm taking the girl home, probably not a situation where sex is happening tonight. And so in this case, I'm not playing for sex or escalation anymore, I'm playing for a second date. And if that's the case, I would much rather be the cool, high-value guy she can't have than the guy who she kind of knows she can have. That doesn't mean 100% not kissing her is right, but it does mean there are a lot of cases where not kissing her may be right. And in fact, you may even be able to use the kiss as a tease. You may be able to say, I'm not kissing you tonight, or easy, we're not doing that till next time. And you can actually use this as a tension builder and as a reason why there is a second date. You can even say, like, I don't kiss until the second date. You can set up this whole plot line about what you'll do on your second date, which may even help you to get a second date. Okay, so there are some cases where slowing down and not kissing the girl early on may make sense. And there are some cases where not kissing at all may make sense. However, if you're beginner or intermediate, if kissing a girl is still a challenge to you on most dates, I highly recommend you go for it as soon as possible, as often as possible, and even do what I did, which is have a rule that I am going to try for the kiss on the first date every single time. You may occasionally mess up by doing that, but you'll mess up far, far less than by almost any other strategy, and you'll mess up far less than by not going for the kiss, if that's where you're at. If and only if you are pretty advanced and kissing's pretty normal for you, I would recommend some of these advanced strategies of not kissing the girl. And if you're advanced, hopefully you're calibrated enough to know when to use them. So that's a lot on when to go for the kiss, when not to go for the kiss, how to go for the kiss. Hopefully that helps you. Hopefully it gets you better results on your dates from here on out. Obviously, going on dates is one of the most critical skills in your success with women. And ironically, a lot of guys figure, you put all this time into attracting the girl, but very few guys put time into doing successful dates. And I see so many missed opportunities on dates themselves. especially for guys that do online dating, which is why I've dedicated literally hours and hours of content within my new course, Online Dating Academy, specifically to how to do dates the right way. If you want to check out that course, it's at the link below. Hopefully I'll see you there. By the way, if you have other questions about online dating, post them in the comments so I can know what kind of content you want to see from me, what questions you guys have. All right, see you on the next one.